All right, hello and good evening. My name is Shraddha. This is the man of the moment, Isaac John, with his new book, Buffering Love.
And that's why I got Shraddha.
And that's paid audience. Paid promotions work. So the reason why I am moderating for Zach is that we're friends, we've worked together, and the first time I met Zach, I knew that one day I'm going to be writing a book and he's going to moderate my book talk. Very close. Also turns out he steals people's dreams like he has stolen mine, but I'm very happy for you, Zach.
Thank you, Shraddha.
So let's sit down, right? And let's start from the start.
Okay.
The painful beginnings of an aspiring writer when nobody gives you do kodi ka bhav. Let's start from the time when anybody who was anybody in the literary world did not have any time to listen to your prayers. Please,
Sure.
padlo.
I think it's fair to say that nobody still gives Kaudi ka bhav. But yeah, it's been a very rewarding journey. And what I wanted to share on the stage and what Shraddha is touching upon is that I actually took a year's break to write as much as I can. And I wrote like 3 screenplays and 2 fully, finished manuscripts. And I went to like a bunch of literary agents, publishers, and basically everybody said that whatever I had written was not going to work because of A, B, C reasons. But and around last time this year, I think the literary festival last year was December, so it was end of the year. So I was coming towards the end of my sabbatical, and I thought this is the last sort of throw of the dice that I can. Sort of try my hand at, and I came here, and I also applied to Litmart, and they didn't waitlist me either. I tried to get a backdoor entry, that didn't work either. So I just came here with like a couple of pamphlets and met whichever publisher, literary agent I could meet, and passed this on. And Millie Ashwarya from Penguin, who I approached, she just said these words saying that, sounds interesting, send me an email. And that sort of led to a chain of events. But essentially, if she would not have said those words, I wouldn't have been here. And if Bangalore Literature Festival had not given me the platform to approach these editors and literary agents in person, I don't think I would have been here. So that's why it's actually pretty nice to come back. It almost like completes a circle.
So firstly, full marks for persistence. Chodunga nahi jab tak. And woohoo! Bangalore Lit Fest. Thank you so much. Thanks to you, we've got a new writer, Issac John. But I've always wondered, do you have to do something as drastic as giving up your job to become a writer? Matlab aise after you come from work, can't you like write? And
yeah, I think every author has a very different journey, and I've been listening to authors last year, in the last couple of years, even attending sessions yesterday, Chimi, Varun. I think all of them have very individual journeys. I think what I knew was, at least, in the jobs that I had, I don't think I was a very good multitasker. And I don't think I could have juggled, 2 things at once. So I took a very conscious decision to quit. So this is my journey, but I'm sure if the n number of new authors that are going to come out of this talk and the others who are already here in this room, everyone has a very different story. And the one thing I learned is that no writer is a replica of the other. I think everyone just has something which is so unique to them, and their journey is equally fascinating and interesting.
so many big decisions to be made. One, I'll quit my job, I'll dive headlong into this. And then what to write?
Yeah.
And you picked short stories.
Yeah.
Now, besides the fact that it's really easy to write short stories, why short stories?
So I actually I basically became a student for 3 months. I did a screenwriting course, and one of the big decisions that I took was essentially to plow back all my savings into that screenwriting course and sort of just travel and do that. And I actually really wanted to write a film, and I wrote like what I thought was a pretty decent film above, let's say, the average Hindi Bollywood film that gets made, and I pitched to fairly important people in the industry. But nobody was taking a bite, and the feedback that I was getting was that this is not the right time. It was a mentor-protege story, slightly older protagonist, so they said this is never going to work in Bollywood. So then I wrote one which was very young people, dating, romance space, etc. And then they said that this is too similar to whatever else is there. Then I wrote a third one which was around my journey, which also, by the time I only finished it, I didn't like it. And then I was like, the screenplay thing is definitely not working. I've written 3 screenplays, I've done enough, and it's not getting me anywhere. I wrote a fully published manuscript. Now, not fully, I finished a full manuscript of a novel. And for those of you who know Vicky, she has a very high taste in life. I showed Vicky my manuscript, and she's like, "You cannot be a novelist. Like, forget it."
Vicky is his wife.
Yeah. So I said, okay, now I got to do something else. So I tried 2 things. I tried short stories and I tried stand-up. And short stories, I did not really go to Vicky immediately until I wrote 10, because I thought she'd at least like 2 of them. But stand-up, I did not even tell anyone. Like, I tell my friends that I'm thinking of doing stand-up, but by the time I had actually done like a fair amount of open mic. So I essentially went through the entire spectrum of whatever there was to write. I did not write a song, I did not write a poem, but I think I covered a fair degree of spectrum, and short stories is where I eventually found my comfort in. And also the one thing I learned from Bollywood, if anybody wants to write for Bollywood, is that I was taught in New York that, you got to finish your screenplay. Whenever you approach producers and directors. But in Bollywood, nobody cares for a fully finished screenplay. What they essentially need is like actually a 5 to 6 page synopsis. So I started converting my film stories into a synopsis. And when I started writing those synopses, I enjoyed it. And I was like, this I can finish in like a week. So then when I started writing like more of these, then I was realizing that I was not spending too much time, but yet I think I was getting somewhere from a creative fulfillment point of view. And so I just wrote like 20 of them. And then I essentially again pitched this as a short story. So I think it was a happy accident more than anything else. But now I love the form, and I always love short stories. But yeah, that's how.
But if anybody is recording this, please do not put it on YouTube, because that will mean the end of Issac John's Bollywood career even before it started. On 3 separate occasions, he has berated Bollywood. For an aspiring writer, for a first-time writer, too much you have.
No, I've actually not berated Bollywood. Like, apart from Kamal R. Khan, I've gone to everyone. So I still have a final, option left. At someday, maybe.
All right. Now, let's come to your stories, really. I have read the first 3. But the choice of subject, stories from the App Store.
Yeah.
So that's what it says, buffering love stories from the App Store. And believe me, when I read that, suddenly I pictured your name differently. The I in Issac became lowercase. Issac John.
Thank you. That was a good one.
Yeah. So, choice of subject.
Choice of subject. So before I quit my job, actually, I was fairly, by God's grace, in a fairly privileged position to actually have a car wait at the airport. Whenever I went, I would not know where to book my flights from, because somebody at the travel agent's desk would do it. Somebody would book a hotel in Novotel, etc., etc. But when I was without a job, I had to do all of these things myself. So I started using a lot of these apps. And then I was realized that actually I have to book an apartment on Airbnb. I have to look for the cheapest apartment. I have to look for the cheapest flight. I have to, do a lot of things on the app. I didn't have an Instagram page before. I made an Instagram page. I was like, now I have to populate it. So the more I was, so at home, I was essentially writing and using these apps. And then I realized that I think, at least among my close friends, obviously I had a lot of interaction on those apps. When I took an apartment on Airbnb, someone else reviewed it. The host sends me a notification saying that please review me. I met some, wonderful families along the journey. And I was building relationships with them, which I did not have at all. And I think this sabbatical probably, because of these apps, I was suddenly I was talking to a lot of Uber drivers. At one point of time, I even took a car on the road and drove myself as an Uber driver. So I did like a lot of these things, and I was just realizing that they were really becoming my world when, I did not have the anchor of a job to fall back onto. And that's it. And you essentially write about what you spend your most maximum time with. And that's how those relationships around apps came to me as a theme. And, I started putting them down.
I've read the first 3 stories in your book, and they reminded me a lot about you. As like I said, the first story about Amy and Kabir.
Yeah.
And there were some lines in which that, "Arey, ye to Zack hi hai." When it said he was graying too fast for a 28-year-old, I was like, "Ye to yehi hai." And then I couldn't get you out of my head. I was reading the story. I said, he must have done all these things. Has he really done these things?
No.
So I was judging you throughout.
Sure.
But what I really liked is the narration technique, and how the first 3 stories have characters that, jump out of one story and go into the other and then pop out in the third story. I also liked how you chose to end story. Sometimes it was like, what? It's over.
Yeah.
So tell us about your narration technique. And
Yeah, so the short stories that I like the best, and I think my editor Gurveen from Penguin really helped me chisel them out better, specifically in terms of endings, were the ones that, one, when you're reading a short story, for those of you who love short stories, I think what I really enjoy it is, the suddenness of it. When you're turning the page, you don't know whether the story is going to end on like the next page or the page after this. There are like a third page after this. And I think that always plays on, as a mind. And I think I wanted to leave that kind of mystery with the reader as much as I could, as much as I possibly could. And so I did consciously work on so once I finished the manuscript, actually I chiseled out the endings of a lot of them. And also one of the heroes of mine, at least in the short story world, is actually O. Henry. And I think O. Henry is known for his, famous twist towards the end, etc. So, and Jeffrey Archer as well, who does those, really surprise endings. So I was sort of gunning for those consciously. And on what you said about, reflection of myself, I think most writers do end up putting them in that one, except in the case that I started graying at the age of 21. So I would have said 21-year-old in case, it was really a true reflection of me.
he's doing a little Hitchcock thing in his books. Did you spot me? All right, so let's talk about the cover. It's a very interesting cover.
Yeah.
So tell us about how that was designed.
Yeah, very interesting journey about the cover as well, because I think visually a lot of people have different ideas about what your book cover should be, and what you want it to be. And I think we sort of hit we were not able to hit a middle ground anywhere. And then this really wonderful kid who designed stuff at Healthify Me, which is where I work now, I reached out to her and said that, listen, nothing is working visually. Can you work out something? And the first thing she said when I sent her a synopsis is that, Isaac, you know what? Do you want to do something with a typing bubble? And I think that just captures buffering love so well, because I think the whole anticipation of what's going to come, and at least in today's world, I think those of you who are like regularly on WhatsApp, you see the other person typing for 5 minutes and then she sends, okay. So I think that typing bubble was probably just like, a pretty strong evocative reminder of what I wanted the book to stand for. Right. And that's exactly what she did. And I think both Malvika and I love typography and playing with different kinds of fonts. So that's it. That's the one.
How many stories in all?
15.
15 stories.
Yeah.
Now, I remember when you mentioned talking about your stand-up journey, you said you wrote 10 in the hope that Viggy would love 2.
Yeah.
How many did you write for Viggy to love 15?
I actually wrote 10. It's true. I did write 10. And I told her that read these 10 and tell me if you like 2. And she said, no, I actually like most of them. So yeah, that's true story.
Or was she just tired of being honest? Ab aur kitna isko?
Now we just got to make it work.
Savage! You are savage, Viggy. But here's the book, and do you have any questions for Zach?
Yeah, we got exactly 5 minutes for questions.
Good. Hi. So
Hey,
I love the title of the book. That excited me the most.
Yep.
So as your next plan, you plan to write love stories? That's one question. And 2, do you believe in true unconditional love?
I think the very fact that, you're sitting next to Bhavisha, I think, must vouch for the fact that you believe in true conditional love and I believe in your relationships. I have to say a yes to that. And firstly, Woody Allen is one of my favorite filmmakers, and he is fantastic at writing relationship-based films, screenplays, etc. So I do have a comfort space in there, but this book is not just about love stories. It also has a conversation. I mean, rather a relationship between a dog and a 15-year-old. There's a conversation between a relationship between a grandfather and a granddaughter. So I think it's just adult relationships in general that I've tried to capture, not necessarily love stories.
Is there any other question?
Hi, I just generally want to understand where you draw much of your inspiration from. I heard that you were a marketing professional, and did your profession help you draw much of your inspiration, or do you really, sort of conjure up things or their circumstances in your profession? Just sort of generally trying to get the sense of how a person who's not conventionally been an author,
Yeah.
moving into this?
Yeah, sure. So definitely from work experiences, life experiences, experiences when you actually just shut yourself up from the world and go someplace. I think it's generally a mix of everything. And whatever I have heard or read from famous authors is also like I don't think it's any one specific place. I think everything helps. There are definitely parts when I think some of my Puma colleagues will be able to see that this happened probably at Puma, some incident, and things like that. There is obviously household stuff in there. There's stuff when I was consulting with a startup last year called Storio. So there's always like different reflections of whatever you've been through. It's probably the easiest fountain to draw from of what you've been through. At least that's it for me. I think some people do the imagination part really well, the fantastical lands and like the realms of alternate universes. I think I do better when I draw it from like my surroundings.
Hi.
Hi.
So you're the only speaker who actually spoke about the book cover.
Yeah.
Do you think that can make unbreak a book, or is it not really that important because?
Yeah. It's very important, actually. It's very important because, I mean, as a marketing professional, I believe in consumer insight and consumer research, and I believe in observation. And I think what I generally see when I'm at the bookstore, I generally see people pick up books which are, just like striking upfront at the cover from the word, on the cover itself. So I think it's definitely very important. And my editor also pushed me hard to actually come to a cover which both she and I could sort of agree, saying that this is the best cover for the stories. So I think if you are in that space wherein you feel that you've done everything, the manuscript is all done, and the cover is just like a checkbox, don't think of it that way. Spend time in it. Take that time and energy to actually invest in a good designer and sort of make the best of it.
Any other question? Hi,
Hi.
this is here. Firstly, I would like to congratulate you because of your energy. That's impeccable.
Thank
So
you.
that's first thing. Second thing, I'm also an author. So recently released my first a month ago. I just want to get into your personal space, if that is okay with you.
Yeah.
Generally, what happens when you're writing something, a piece of book or a piece of your soul bleeds? That's what you say. Soul bleeds into
Yep.
that. So the cognition of your mind is totally reversed. It's like, although you're there, you're thinking about your book. Although you're there, what best can you add there? How more attractive can you make that?
Yep.
So basically, when you were writing your book, what was your cognition about, and what was your energy, surrounding about?
Okay. Firstly, congratulations for your book. When I am actually writing something, I think my worst fear is that I won't be able to finish it. I think that's what I am always most petrified about, that whether I'll be able to finish it or not. And I actually don't think much about anything else, because I think and this is my number one advice for any aspiring authors here, is that just write whatever you've started, just finish it. I mean, so many people who just say that they are halfway through a manuscript, and I think it does not make for a good pitch. Last year, if I did not have my manuscript, I wouldn't have had the confidence to tell an editor that I can send you my manuscript tomorrow. And I think that's probably one of the things, or the one thing that I definitely did right. So I don't think I have any other thoughts when I'm writing, apart from the fact that I should just get through this, and I should allow myself to paraphrase Ishiguro. He said that you should allow yourself to be terrible while you're in the process. And I think if you allow yourself to be terrible and just get to that last page, I think it's a good enough start.
There was one more question, right, somewhere?
Hi, Isaac.
Hi.
So my question is, buffering love. When you look at the title first up, it seems like it's a collection of short stories,
Yeah.
but the ellipsis at the end suggests otherwise. Is
Yeah.
my first interpretation, or what I sort of like get that sense? Is it?
Okay.
Is it? Can we expect some sort of a twist because of the ...
Yeah, so it's actually, I'm glad you asked that, because we touched upon it a bit. So while each of the stories is independent and stand on its own, there are recurring characters, and there is a connection between story A to story B to story C, and all the way through to story number 15. So while originally when I was thinking of the cover, I did not necessarily think of it that way. I can see how you are interpreting it that way, but my intention was essentially to just say that there is just like a lot of sense of incompleteness in how you deal with your relationships when when you're using these apps to communicate with your near and dear ones. And I think that's the sort of incompleteness that I was going for. That I think relationships do stay a little incomplete if you just like rely on only apps to sort of tell your story. So yeah, that.
So my question is, is buffering love from a real life experience? And the corollary is buffering love faster or slower than real life?
Okay, let me buffer and process that for a moment. Buffering love is so there are 6 stories in the book which are actually pretty much real incidents which I have fictionalized and put in the book. And I have actually put a little bit of notes through some of those stories. There's actually a wonderful DVD store in Indiranagar which is struggling right now. It's called Once More Video, which ever since the streaming services have launched, the business has essentially just been going down. And I love that DVD store. I still, have at least one movie that I pick up from that store every day. So, that's like a true story. So 6 of them are absolutely real and factual. And the second part of your question, could you come again? Okay, is buffering love slower or that's pretty meta? I don't think I have an answer for that. And I think the insufficiency of that answer is a pretty good answer in itself, if you will.
Any other question? Would you like to read a short excerpt from your book?
Actually, let's do one thing. I have a story in which a guy and a girl are conversing on Tinder. I think it'll make good fun if you play the girl's part, I'll play the
Do you
guy's
have
part.
2 books?
No, we don't have 2 books. Is there a book that someone can lend? Yeah, thank you. It's...
Will you be able to wrap it up in 5 minutes?
Yeah, we'll just read 1 page or less, or maybe a couple of pages. This is An Offer to Remember, 169. 169.
Okay.
So...
173?
169. No, 173. We can do 179.
Okay.
Okay, so you start. So it's essentially an applicant who's waiting for a job interview, and the interviewer has not turned up, and she just opens up the Tinder app in the office reception, and there's a conversation that ends up having with someone she matches with on Tinder. So Debbie.
Debbie, it could mean a lot of things. But first, is this woman your wife? I don't even know her name. I wasn't even supposed to meet her. Wait, I need some water.
Debbie emptied half a bottle of water kept nearby and started panting as she typed. The receptionist raised her eyebrows.
I need to lie down. I can't believe I decided to go to Tinder while waiting for an interview. Worst decision ever. I can't do this.
I'm serious, but what work will you have with her anyway? I don't think she'll meet you for an interview. She only interviews business guys.
Debbie's heart pounded. She needed this job so badly. She looked for the Xanax pills her doctor had prescribed in her purse. It was the worst day to leave them behind. I think I'm fainting. At least give me some tips. Something. Anything.
So she's going to ask you for a personal example of grit and determination. Not in your professional life, but in your personal life. It's important to her.
I don't trust you. What's her name?
And then there's this one question that she asks everyone that is the clinching question for her.
What is it?
My flight's taking off.
Don't do this. Stop the damn thing. I forgot my pills too. I can't believe it. What's the question?
She will ask you if
what?
If you ever chatted with Riz on Tinder.
I can't believe you're taking this so lightly. Please tell me you were kidding.
I'm used to freaking people out with the information that they give me. Like, I only knew that this office was based out of Andheri and...
Go away. Just go. I'm not talking to you.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's just a...